Welcome again. At the Voices of Earth Summit, we are exploring the sacred truth that consciousness doesn't end at the edge of the physical world. It lives in the unseen realms, in energy, and in the bonds we share with animals across all dimensions. Our next guest is a powerful guide in this space, blending meditation, quantum awareness, and interspecies communication to help people receive healing, meaning, and messages from their animals, even after they've crossed over. Please welcome Diana Delmonte. Diana is an interspecies communicator, remote viewer, and educator. She has authored 3 books, one forthcoming, and 2 oracle decks, and is the founder of the Dia Animal Communication Academy. She brings an extensive background in Buddhist meditation and Kundalini yoga, along with a passion for quantum physics, into her work. Through this integrative approach, she guides people worldwide with animal sessions, quantum healing courses, and spiritual mentoring. While Diana has worked extensively with behavioral issues like aggression, trauma, and inappropriate urination, and has been sought worldwide for lost animal cases. What she's most passionate about now is helping people connect with their animals in spirit, sharing their animals' messages and purpose, providing closure, and helping their people find peace. Diana's forthcoming book, In Between Worlds and Beyond, reflects this special work, documenting the continued communication between people and their animals long after physical death. Welcome, Diana. I'm so excited to talk to you. We share some similarities, and I love that you weave in quantum physics into your work, as well as helping animals that have crossed over. That is probably some of the most meaningful work that we can offer as animal communicators. Can you tell us how and why uh, you're drawn to this work or realized you could communicate with animals?
Yeah, um, the work found me, as happens a lot, because I didn't have a upbringing. I wasn't raised like other communicators, who their parents were, rescue people and they were listening to animals when they were like 5. That was not my experience. I had zero awareness as a child, zero. I did have animals. I had parakeets. I had other animals, but no real connection with them. My parakeets, yes, but not a telepathic communication. So it wasn't really until my 30s, late 30s, I came to Los Angeles I came to Los Angeles in my early 30s, but I was a skeptic, hardcore skeptic, and I was an artist. And I mention that because my whole life was my art, and it wasn't like I was, painting flowers. It was about my inner work, exploring consciousness, and really healing my wounds. And I did this 24/7. I was living with a musician. Neither of us wanted animals. Neither of us wanted children. We didn't want to get married. I just wanted to do my art. I wanted no responsibility. And then one day he brought home a cat, my first black cat, Yudi. And I wasn't happy at first. He disrupted my focus. He needed my attention. Fast forward 6 months later, I have 4 more cats now, or 4 altogether, and I'm getting used to living with cats. I'm loving it. And one day, I was at my desk writing, and here I was. I was working, I was exhibiting all over, Los Angeles, but to make money, I was working in a not new age, a metaphysical, I'd say metaphysical bookstore,
Mm.
a big one in Los Angeles. It was the Bodhi Tree Bookstore. It was,
Oh, yeah, I've heard of it. Yes.
yeah, okay, it was very famous. And I was surrounded by mystics and, ancient. world religions, and I was not open to animal communication. They communicators would come into the store. I would literally roll my eyes. I thought the whole thing was ridiculous. So now here I am, a little more open to it, but still not thinking it was possible. And here I was, something as mundane, right, as my pen running out of ink completely changed my life. I was writing, my pen ran out of ink, so I got up to look for another pen. And so, my mind was just focused on my writing. I was just sort of walking through the rooms like a zombie. And I was just about to enter my partner's music room to get, to find a pen when I heard in my mind, very clear, look out, I'm down here. Very practical, right? Nothing profound. And I looked down and there was my cat Bubby laying right there at the doorway. And being a skeptic, I thought, no way, coincidence. And then about a month later, I was petting him in the sunlight. Again, I was very focused on just his, the fur was nice and warm and soft, and I'm just petting him. All of a sudden, I got a flash, real quick, of Bubby straining to urinate. And I thought, is he showing me that he's having problems? He had a history. He had a history of urinary blockages. And I ignored it. I dismissed it again. And 2 days later, he blocked. And I had to rush him to the hospital. And then again, it happened again, a third time through a dream when Yudi communicated to me visually that another cat in the house needed help. And that was when I finally, it took 3 times for me to think, I think I'm hearing my animals. And that's when I practiced. I bought a book. I practiced with my cat. And then later I trained.
Mhm. Yeah, I tell people all the time, especially when they're opening up to their intuition, I go, Listen to patterns of three." They send you information in patterns of three. Because quite often we don't hear it the first time, we discount it, we're busy, and then it could be later that day or within a couple days, close enough that we remember uh, a similar experience happens. And then we may go, well, that's an interesting coincidence, and then forget it.
Yeah.
But the third time usually gets our attention. I go, oh, okay,
Yeah.
this is wild. And
Patterns of
so
three.
patterns of three. And so when I was opening up, my intuition opened about the same age, and I find a lot of us open up in the 30s. That is a prime time for all, but mostly women, a lot of women that go in and there's a shift or a new sense of awareness, a developmental shift in just like we have phases. You crawl, then you walk, and then you talk, and well, we have these phases throughout life. And in the 30s, we start shedding our younger personas that we needed to grow up with, and then around 30 to 35, quite often we go into a new phase. And for some of us, our intuition just really engages.
That is so interesting, especially the women with the intuition, especially as we get older and we go through the menopause. That's when we really
That's
get,
another phase.
yeah, more connected. And honestly, when you say that, because when I was younger, like I had written about this in the book that I'm writing, I had a lot of experiences with sensing spirit. I didn't know what it was, and I spent my life thinking I was crazy, and I, um, you know, I thought, well, I have such an imagination is so active. How can I turn it off? And so I drank. I spent my life drinking and doing drugs just to numb myself. And so yeah, but it comes through anyway. It finds a way to come through.
Right. And for those it's new, it doesn't have to be scary. And that's part of the reason for the summit is though that people can relate to other one of our stories. They might resonate with you, and that's a good place to talk to somebody who's been through it already. Because It happens in patterns. Like I said, I don't know how many people I can tell you that I've seen it not only with myself, but patterns of three. It's really important that that's how we develop our intuition, how spirit talks to us. And so that can be really important for somebody to go, oh, okay. But they need to hear that message.
And
So,
living with, oh, I'm sorry, I was going to say, and living with animals too.
oh, yes.
They just open us, don't they, in
Oh,
some
they
ways? Yeah.
totally do. Oh yeah, I started with dogs, not cats, but that was my first experience, and I just thought it was because I was so bonded with my dog that we had that deeper connection, and it wasn't until I met a baby seal on the beach that after a day after a storm, and it was crying its little eyes out, and it had been a big storm, and um, and the mom had put it up high on the beach, almost to where the walking path was, which is where I was with my dog. And the marine helpers, the marine workers, had put a caution tape around it and told people as they walked by, because everybody was worried about this baby seal. And they said, no, no, the seal is fine. Mom put it there to rest after the storm, and she's out fishing, and she'll come back and get the seal pup when she's done fishing and getting food for them. So so I thought, but this poor seal was just crying its little eyes out. It was really, it was a mournful cry and fearful cry. So I thought, I wonder if this will work to communicate with this baby seal. So I tried it and I told it what the marine people had told me that it was safe, that mom will come back for it in a little while, and she wants it to just rest. And as I said, rest and go to sleep, take a nap, its eyes got heavy, it closed its eyes and fell sound asleep. And I went, oh, it worked.
Oh my God. Oh, that's a
And
lovely
so that
story.
was the validation I needed that, okay, this isn't just work with an animal that I'm really bonded with. This stuff is really cool. And it took a while longer for me to really get engaged with it, but that story was just like I hit the I believe button that it's real.
You know, when we work with wild animals, it's always a good way to begin for that reason, because
Hmm.
you know that your mind is completely neutral, right? You're not emotionally involved or trying to be right. It's just it's natural. When you see a response like that, then
It's
there's your
wonderful.
validation.
It's perfect validation. You can't
Yeah.
excuse that away. So, what drew you to focus your work in your forthcoming book on animals and spirit?
Um, when my mother died when I was 27, and 2 months later, and I was grieving very heavily, and I was 27, and two, well, the age doesn't really matter, but it was my first death, my first intimate death, and 2 months later, she appeared in a dream,
Mm,
and she she gave me a message. She told me that her cancer was gone, she was not in pain, and she asked me to take care of my father, and then she disappeared. But before she disappeared, I mean, I was just filled. It was a visitation. It was not a dream. I was
hmm.
filled with her the love and the compassion. When you hear about near-death experiences and how people experience that big, vast, loving, encompassing, compassionate force in the universe. Well, that's what I felt from her. I didn't need any physical touch from her to feel so nurtured and just held in her arms metaphorically. And so, from that point on, I wanted to, you know, I wondered about death. I knew that she wasn't dead. I knew that she was alive on some level. I wanted to understand this. And I spent my life, I mean, my art, as I mentioned, reflected, my own spiritual path and my inner work and consciousness. And then in my 40s, you see, in my 40s, I one of my cats was tragically killed, and that spurred me on to write my first book. I was not a writer. I didn't know anything about writing. I never took a writing course in my life and workshop, nothing. But my friends were tired of listening to me. I was grieving so deeply, and people were just sick of me. And so I started writing. It just started, the book is kind of like poetic. It has like a rhythm. I mean, where did that come from? It just like flowed out of me. And I wrote a little book all about Cuckoo, and how he changed my life. But the point is, when he died, he returned 2 months later. And it's just like my mom, formless, no body, but I recognized him. And as soon as I recognized him and he was happy and radiant, perfect health, he disappeared. And then I was just so interested. And, what's interesting is my Buddhist practice and quantum physics, very similar. Quantum physics says that we are 99.999% space, and we're energy, and life is a hologram that we create with our thoughts. And Buddhism says the same thing, that life is a dream, and that it's an illusion. And after Cuckoo died, I had a dream where I heard um, these words, and it said, the energy that took Ku out is good. It's the same energy that wakes you up in the morning. And it was kind of like a riddle. And I thought, what does that mean? It woke me up. And I thought, what does that mean? And I thought about, Buddhism and quantum physics. And I thought to myself, death, here we are living life that we feel is so solid and real. And here death comes and wakes us up to the reality of the truth of who we really are, right? And so I started just getting more and more involved, and somehow, I don't know how or when, I started working with people, with their animals and spirit. And then it wasn't, and then I did a lot of hospice work and working with animals in transition. But it wasn't until my cat, uh, it was all my animals. When O. Henry died, he was 22. He died in 2022. That's when I started the book. When he died, I thought I really had it together. Like I could really hold my presence with my cats or another person's animal who was dying, and I could be there at ease with the dying process because I personally don't euthanize, or I try not to, and sometimes the death process could be hard to witness. But I was so at ease with it until O. Henry died, and that really shattered me. And that's when I decided to take everything, all my experiences that I learned, to write this book. And I have over 50 story submissions from people, from government workers to veterinarians, who describe their animals coming back to them after death. And so many of us have that, from all walks of life, have had that experience. And it sends goosebumps. I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it. So that's my story about working in spirit and writing about it.
One of the most magical moments I've ever had was it was shortly after I moved to my place in Oregon, my farm, and had just brought my alpacas up just, oh gosh, probably about a week they'd been here, not long at all. And I had to leave one of my boys down south where I had come from in California, and I boarded for 3 years because he had taken sick right before I transported, so I couldn't take him or bring him up with the rest of my herd. And so they were taking care of him, but sadly he passed. And he was,
Mm.
uh, I just love this alpaca. He was such a smart, he was an extrovert for an alpaca, which is unusual. And we had such an amazing bond. I just loved training and working with him, and he was like my best buddy. I just had so many wonderful times with him. Anyway, then I moved to Oregon, so 700 miles away.
Oh,
That night that he passed, I was just devastated. But I had to bring my alpacas in and the lady, before dark and close them in where they were safe for the evening. And they got the zoomies and they kept running back and forth, get in to where I could close them off and then quick, somebody would run out again. So I couldn't close the gate. And they got the zoomies. And then pretty soon they started running in a big circle, giant circle in the back of one of my pastures. Just the girls, all my girls were just and their babies were running in this big circle. They made several laps and then they stopped and they faced each other. They made a big, it was a huge circle for about 10 alpacas that were looking at each other. And they were facing each other in this big circle. And then one by one, and they were staring at the center. They were looking at something in the center of the circle.
Oh, wow.
And one by one, they bowed their head and then walked away.
Oh my God.
And I knew it was him, that he had come to say goodbye to everybody. So I
Oh
had
my
tears
God.
running down my face, but I knew this was such a magical moment that even though it's so sad, I didn't want to ever, I'm so grateful that I didn't miss that opportunity of witnessing something so magical.
Oh God. Cindy,
So, so when we open up to death and those that cross over, it is something deeply moving, and it can be the catalyst. Those their deaths open up our intuition more.
yes.
Right? And so even in loss, and we want to sometimes shut down and close off our heart. Um, in moments like that, it actually says, no, you're not allowed to. We need to open it even more because we're still loving you. We're
And
here
when
with you.
yes, and when we open, like Pema Chodron says, keep the heart open, don't shut down. And it's true because when you keep it open, through grief, a part of the healing process, but when you keep it open, that's when we do find the blessings. And when I think it seems like what I don't know, deeply grieving. Well, I mean, my mom and Cuckoo came back when I was deeply grieving, but sometimes I think deeply grieving could maybe block.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So
Right,
it's
because there's a component of fear too. So when in the moment of grief, sometimes we block the other side, and that's probably why it would took 2 months because the
yeah,
emotion of grief had to
it had lessened.
and
Yes,
so that the
exactly.
heart could be open to hear because you don't hear intuition very well when you're in the what I call the negative emotions, which the motion of
Exactly.
grief is actually has a component of fear. But when we open and have time, then it actually grief can act as a process or a bridge to our higher awareness, to our intuition, to a lot more. So I think of it as both an emotion and a process, a bridge.
Yeah, a process. And when those experiences happen to us, and then we know that the consciousness continues. I mean, we know it, we don't just read it in a book. I mean, we know it in our hearts. And when we know that, that helps to lessen our grief because we know that they're with us. They are with us.
Right. It helps us. And then I also say it's okay to feel devastated and really heartbroken because it's a testament. It's honoring them. It's proportional for how much they meant to us. So why not? Yeah, it should hurt. It should hurt like heck. But I counter it then with a lot of positive emotions so I don't get stuck. We don't want to get stuck in the grief, but we want to actually feel it. It honors them. So, tell me how your work with animal has shaped the way you see the world in your own life.
I have to. So, generally, overall, generally sort of speaking, like we know, right, that our animals show us unconditional love and forgiveness and uh, the foundations really for our spiritual um, evolvement, things that we want to embody. and they are such good healers and teachers in that way. But aside and compassion and all of that. But aside from that, uh, for me personally, um, again, getting back to Cuckoo's death, he really, it wasn't, I didn't take my animal communication, I didn't do it professionally until after he died, because he's the one, that's why I wrote the book, Cuckoo, about him. He changed the direction of my life. He shifted my priorities because I was sort of a, self-absorbed. My art was very self-absorbing and self-centered. Nothing wrong with that. But now I wanted to be of service, mainly because I was holding a lot of grief, and I was really blown away with his death. And it's a long story; it's in my book. But I, um, I was. Now I'm losing my train of thought because I'm getting into the emotion here. Um, gee, was I? God, cuckoo. Um,
How he shaped your life.
I'm sorry.
That's
Yeah.
okay.
So, oh, so I stopped doing my art. I mean, here I was doing it for like 30 years. I stopped doing my art, and because I hadn't listened to that was what I was trying to say. Because had so much grief over his passing, and I blamed myself. That now, because I didn't listen to him, I wanted to start listening to animals. Simple
Mm-hmm.
as that. And I wanted to help others. Uh, yeah, and so I started doing it professionally. It was all because of him. So what he taught me, though, which was the most important thing, how it changed my life, was to really be present. The presence in doing very simple things, you know, like animals' teachings to me are very similar to Zen teachings because I know I'm a Zen practitioner. Just mindfulness, right? Like when you're eating, eat mindfully. When you're like animals are aware 360 degrees. They have to be, otherwise a predator will get them. Just think if we can live our lives like that, just aware all the time of the bird singing. Get out of the fog in the head, the bird singing and the colors around you and the sense around you as you're taking a walk, your feet making noise on the ground, just become completely aware and live our life through all our senses all the time. Life becomes more vibrant. We have more appreciation for that present moment, right? We're not in the future, we're not in the past, we're right here, right now. And that's what Cuckoo that's what how he shifted my life.
Hmm. Yeah, animals are truly do live in the moment, and humans do not tend to. That is probably one of the best lessons animals can teach us is just to stop thinking about what happened in the past, what is about to happen, and just appreciate the here and the now. It's like
Hmm.
stop for, with my dog this morning. I had a lot to do this morning and I was trying to rush through things and she comes up and she's got her little toy outside and she wants to play. And it's like, oh, I have so much, I can take a minute or two and play with you and this toy. And they were so funny. They were a hoot. So in those 2 minutes, 3 minutes that I enjoyed being with them and the joy on their faces, and we shared that moment, that was healing. That changed my whole attitude of being a little stressed and thinking about getting all the stuff ready and what I needed to do for the day, and just stopped and had fun, you know.
And
And that's good chemicals. That's like taking an antidepressant.
yeah, and her dropping that toy probably was not coincidental because I remember one time, I know O. Henry, my other cat, really wanted to keep me focused. And one time, again, just like you, the mind going like this, a million things to do, he actually ran in front of me, stared me right in the eyes, and peed. And I thought, okay, I got it.
Yep.
So yeah,
If you're not listening,
because
they'll
they
say, "Do you
know.
hear me now?" It's
Yeah,
a commercial. Can you hear
yeah,
me now?
exactly.
All right.
They
Okay. Not
they
that. All right. How about I'm going to piddle on yours, but
exactly. They know, right? They know when we have a million zillion thoughts in our mind. They know that, and they want us to slow down and enjoy the moment. It's
enjoy the
it's so
moment.
simple and it's so hard for us,
Right.
right?
And it's not just that. Sometimes they really are trying to communicate that something isn't right.
Yes.
And they need, oh, we got interference here. And so
I didn't, not on my end.
not on my end
Oh, you
either.
know what? It could be paper. I have some paper here. I have
Okay,
notes so I
we're
don't get
okay now.
sidetracked.
Anyway,
Okay.
so we're just um that they're trying to get our attention sometimes because sometimes something isn't right with them and they want help or they're confused. Something changed in the household. They don't understand it. And that's what my experience is. And they get to the point where they're having accidents in the house or something of that nature that isn't a physical issue. They're taken to the vet and they're fine. So they don't know what's wrong. And so tapping into them and helping, they're trying to communicate to us that something isn't right and they're not happy about it or they're confused about it. They want to know what's going on. And so that's where your services and my services can really help, is because they're really trying to get our attention when they have some behavioral issues. It isn't because they're trying to be naughty, they're really trying to get our attention.
It's their way of communicating. Exactly.
Because
And
they've tried asking before and we just didn't get
you
it.
didn't get it. You know, even as an animal communicator, I am not always, I don't always hear my animals because
Oh,
I get in the loop too, right? The mental loop. And my one cat, when you said that, it made me think of my cat Eartha. And, you know, I write all about this because, God, it's the only way to get it out is through writing for me now. But I didn't listen to Eartha. I didn't listen to her. So obviously trying to show me she needed help. She was pooping in the two places where I frequent most, in front of my closet, got to get my clothes, and in front of the bathroom. She knows I go in the bathroom every morning. I was teaching about 300 kids not at once, but I was teaching during the summer. I was like this. I was stressed out. I was not paying attention. It never dawned on me something was physically wrong. Long story short, I ended up having to put her down. It's a horrible, horrible, horrifying story. But the point is, yeah, they're trying to get through.
well, I think too, we don't want to hear that message.
That's
So
a good point.
I know when I tap into them, if there's something seriously wrong, I don't want to hear that message. So that's why it's much easier for
To fill
somebody
in
that
out.
isn't connected.
Yes.
We care about everybody's animals, but we don't have that strong heart connection. So we can hear them easier. I tell my students all the time, it's your personal animals are the hardest ones to read because we don't always want to hear what they want to tell us.
I
So
tell my clients the same thing.
yep, yep. So it's easier to
Start with other
practice on
people's.
friends' animals and go someplace where you can work with other people's animals. If you're learning, your own animals are really hard to tap into. So tell us again, maybe what is one surprising or profound message you've ever received from an animal?
You know, I have actually a surprise, one surprise, which is funny, and one profound from O. Henry, my own cat. But the surprising one, behavior problem, little Chihuahua attacking the woman's brother, and the woman said he's a foster. I'm fostering him, and if he doesn't stop, I'm going to have to bring him back to the shelter. Why is he doing this? And I heard from this animal, of course, because you do the work yourself, we interpret their thoughts in our own words. So he probably, animals don't swear, but this was the tone that I received. Okay, I heard in my head, I said, "Why are you attacking her brother?" And he said, "He's a pain in the ass. He doesn't do any he doesn't do any work in the house." And I looked at her and I told her and I said, "Is that true?" I was a little embarrassed to tell her that, and yes, it was true. He was a couch potato. He was driving her crazy, and she wasn't expressing her feelings to him. She was holding it in, so he was speaking out for her and
Mm.
attacking the brother. So
Ah,
that was something I never expected to hear from an animal.
yeah.
And the most profound thing I have to say was from my own cat. I was living in this place. I had a beautiful in LA is trees in the background in the backyard. We actually had trees, beautiful garden, my fountain, and the landlords upstairs hired tree trimmers. Well, they demolished the yard completely. It looked like a war zone. Seriously, it looked like a bomb hit. And I was so devastated. Went to sleep that night, and I woke up in the middle of the night. I heard like this high kind of pitched humming, distressful sound, and I thought it was coming from a dream or something, and it was coming from outdoors. And I opened the window. The whole yard, the trees were screaming. I could hear their distress. And I just started crying and crying. And I was just so, crying. And Henry was on my chest like he always is. And I was. And I said to him, Oh, Henry, we got to get out of here. I can't live here anymore. I can't live here with the trees like this. We're going to move. And I heard, no, you can't make this stuff up. These aren't my words. This is not anything I would think. I heard, and I wrote it down because I want to quote my cat correctly. I'm quoting my cat. He said, I heard this so vividly. I mean, yes, distinctly. He said, life is about growing. You're growing. I'm growing. The trees are growing. It's okay. And that in itself gave me so much peace. I fell asleep and I ended up staying there. We stayed there through well, for a while through the disaster. So yeah,
Mhm.
I don't always hear profound things. When I hear things from animals, it's pretty direct and practical. When I do hear anything profound, it's animals and spirit mostly.
Hmm. Well, I think it's profound in their directness and then their simplicity sometimes.
Yes, yes, it is.
So, and that's been some of my biggest lessons from them. They kind of go, I don't understand. Why is that upsetting to you? It is what it is.
Yeah, few words, big impact, right?
Hmm. It's we that want this big
Elaboration.
melodramatic stuff, and sometimes it's like, oh yeah, that's important.
Yep.
So some of my biggest life-changing moments have been messages from animals that are just so simple. And it just stopped me dead in my tracks, and I went, yeah, I don't need to do it that way. I can be more simplified by it or look at it. I'm an empath. I know when somebody's being honest with me or not, right? I
Uh,
oh yeah, I don't need all that validation that humans tend to need. I know when they're telling me the truth,
yeah.
right? So
Uh-huh.
and our animals know when we're genuine or not. And that was one of my biggest lessons. They said, listen to who's genuine. You know how to do that. I go, yeah. Oh, yeah, I can do that. So, yes. So I understand you have an offering for our listeners.
Yes, I would like to offer my ebook on behavior problems. It's sort of a very short, 60 pages. It's a short version of my longer, my paperback. What animal, what's the name of I can never remember my titles. Oh, why you should listen when your animals don't. And it's all about behavior problems, which is
Mm.
interesting. Different, behavior problems can be very complicated and be multi-layered. So that's what I'm going to be offering.
Awesome. Yes, because I encourage my listeners that are my clients to get that ebook. We often have to work through behavioral issues, and I'm pretty good with some, but not with others. And so getting another perspective and a broader experience, we all talk different languages or understand or interpret. And so you can get important tools of and tips of understanding what's going on with my animal and why they're behaving this way, and maybe gives you insight on how you can modify what you're doing for them or to them, or just understanding what is their perspective. And sometimes that's all you need, so you can tweak one little thing,
Yeah.
and then you can have a much happier home life with your pet.
Yeah, and they're happy to be heard.
Yes, exactly. Who doesn't want to be heard?
Exactly.
Well, I thank you. And what's your website too, to let people know what your website is?
It's my name, DianaDelmonte.com.
Very good. So please check out Diana's website and her offerings. And thank you so much for gifting us with your insights, your stories, and your gifts.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been an honor. Thank you.